And welcome back to the Talking Archive. My name is Josh Jacobs, and we now conclude our interview with world-famous Tom Murphy and his stories and more stories about Chicago's biggest super jock ever.
Oh, it was kind of funny. I remember years ago in 1967, Larry Lujak had left the CFL All Night Show to go over to OLS, obviously, more money and afternoons. Who wouldn't?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And Roger Hart was friendly with Ken Draper because they'd worked together at Kissin' in Portland. And Roger was managing the Raiders by this time, and so whenever they would play Chicago, which wasn't all that often, but if they did, while Ken was there, he would let Ken, as opposed to WLS, sponsor the show, which was a nice shot, you know, because they were really big at that point. And so Roger knew that I was kind of, I wasn't jealous of Larry, but I mean, Larry was in Chicago, and that sounded kind of neat. You know, maybe I should think about that. You know, give up this dream of stardom in L.A. and go for the good money in Chicago. And so anyway, he talked to Ken, and Ken said, he said, I kind of remember him from Portland, because Portland was where he had worked at KEX. So he came out and listened. I guess I sent him a couple of tapes, and then he came out and listened for a couple of days and called, and we had dinner, and I really liked him. You know, we had a very nice time, and anyway, he said, it's kind of down to between you and Dick Biondi. And I didn't say anything, but my thought was, well, he'll go with Biondi. You know, I mean, here's a guy that was so huge in Chicago a few years ago, and I'm a hell of a lot cuter and better than he is, but you know, we're talking, we're talking, you know. So anyway, he did go with Biondi. You know, he later said he wished he had never done that, and I said, well, yeah, nice going, Ken. You know. Well, but he came out here and he got a hold of me, and God, I did tons and tons of work for him. You know, writing and voicing and hosting and stuff, because he was doing a lot of production with a guy named Jim Hampton. And, he came out here with Chuck Bloor, you know, programming DB. And, and he and Chuck got along all right, but you know, Chuck was so far into the commercials by that time, you know, he realized, you know, he could do a commercial for a national account and make a whole lot more money than trying to, you know, straighten out K-Relay's playlist or whatever it was. Not that anybody probably could have ever straightened out their playlist.
No.
But anyway, that was Ken and I stayed friends, you know, for years after that. You know.
Oh yeah, and
he was. They were tied into. There was a thing for a while called CBS Radio, and they ran shows, and we, pardon me, you know, I did writing and hosting and features and stuff. So it was kind of a whole lot of stuff, which. You know, God damn, I'm dying here.
Uh-oh.
If you hear a thud, it's me dying from the hiccups, you know, which is, I want them to put something else on the death certificate besides former DJ dies of hiccups. You know, that's what an exit that is, right?
Or you can say, if I died of COVID, I did not die of it.
Yeah, right, it was hiccups. So, but anyway, you know, Ken and I did a ton of work together. I always liked him a lot. Yeah.
And after Kiss AM, you and Gary Owens worked together again at KFI when it was middle of the road easy listening.
Yeah.
And of course, that was not a very good experience.
No, that was. Well, you know, the only person that really liked KFI that I could tell was Jeff Edwards. He kind of got along with Ken Cole. You know, Gary didn't particularly like him, and neither did Al. You know,
that's right.
And of course, I didn't. You know, like.
Well, Gary became mornings because Lohman and Barkley kind of broke up when Roger Barkley got a offer to go to FM 99 KJOI KJoy, and that pretty much broke the partnership. Oh yeah.
Yeah, hell, I worked there for a little bit. You know, did some fill-in work there.
But
they had kind of an interesting studio up on a hill or something. I remember.
Wow.
Used to overlook, you know, the dump or something. I don't know. Let's face it, Josh, we all are overlooking a dump.
This just showed you the real thing instead of an optical illusion, I guess.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Yeah, Keyjoy, boy, that was, I only did a few fill-in things there. That was the weirdest damn station, I don't think anybody anywhere, in the entire food chain knew what the hell they were doing. God knows I didn't.
Well, I remember you told me the story at KFI. It was the end of your shift, and Gary was in studio preparing for his morning show, and you said, we're 64 KFI, the station everybody in the car can agree upon, except for the kid in the back seat with the purple hair. He thinks we suck.
Yeah. That's true. That's a true story. That's gone around the world several times, thanks to Burl Bear from Seattle, Yeah. Oh, God, Gary about shit, Well, Tom, you probably shouldn't have said that. I don't even remember if he commented. I do remember he was in the other room and he looked through the glass. I knew by that time that that any future that I had at KFI was not going to be very pleasant or very long-lived. So I really didn't care. Ken Cole had been such a putz.
I remember you said
I thought he was a kind of a crummy PD, but he was really not a really particularly pleasant person either. I would say nice, but who the hell can judge that? But he might have been very nice to everybody but me. I don't know, but I sure thought he was kind of a dingbat.
Well, I remember you said Gary didn't like him either, and expressed
No,
his
Gary
opinion.
didn't. No.
And you said Gary usually was politically correct and would rarely criticize
Absolutely.
anybody.
He never knew, the guy that you have no talent or reason for living. Hi, Gary, remember when you told me that? Yeah, well, I'm the head of Nernman Advertising now. And we're going to get Johnny Hayes to do our spots or whatever.
Well, I remember when Phil Hartman died, was the murder-suicide. And I didn't realize Gary had been friends with Phil Hartman. And that was the only time I ever heard him say anything bad about anybody. He said Phil Hartman was just the nicest guy. His wife was just a total witch. I mean...
Oh, yeah, she was a dingbat from hell,
Oh, it was awful.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember seeing that story that morning, and I just I don't want to get over dramatic, but it kind of broke my heart, because I just thought he was so good, and so talented. And what a waste, gets shot in bed,
And then 2 kids, have no parents anymore.
No, I know, yeah. I remember seeing a picture of somebody carrying the 2 kids. I think they were still in their pajamas, out to a car or, to get them on a plane to go wherever, Phil's parents were, or wherever they were going to be taken care of, but they were little, they were not particularly old at all,
No. And, gosh, what a waste.
Oh, I know. Yeah, just unbelievable. Yeah, he was so talented. He was so funny. He was a hell of an artist, He did a lot of album covers and stuff. He was into they have a name for it, like commercial art, I guess maybe it would be. Yeah,
I remember the first time I heard his voice, he was the announcer of the short-lived Poppin' Rocker game show hosted by Bowser from Sha Na Na.
Oh, really?
This was when Bowser was trying to be a game show host. It was called a Game in Concert, and they always had surprise appearances by 2 different pop musicians, from Tommy Two-Tone to Irene Cara to Culture Club. And so Phil Hartman was the announcer. I remember his unique voice on that one. And then I think eventually Machine Gun Kelly did some of the announcing as well later on.
Yeah.
And then Phil Hartman moved back east to be on NBC's Saturday Night Live. And I just... He was hilarious as both Ronald Reagan and later Bill Clinton. There's a lot of things we're not going to be telling Mrs. Clinton. See these French fries right over here? These are warlords. This hamburger right here, this Big Mac, that's the mafia right there. Racing to the Pizza Hut.
Yeah, God, I always loved Phil Hartman. He was so good. He played like who was that idiot Hussein? He did him one time, like as an Arab warlord or some shit. And he had like the mustache and everything. Unbelievable. Yankee Imperial Dog. She was, thank you, Phil. He was good.
Or Ronald Reagan. Oh, children, that's the part of this job I hate the most. Well, hello, Susie. I see you've sold your Girl Scout cookies, and congratulations. All right, everybody, back to work.
Yeah, he would be this terror, and then he'd go out outside in the White House or something and be, doddering old Reagan, which is kind of a funny concept.
Exactly.
Well, I don't know. Are we about out of tape here? Is this thing winding up? Or,
the beautiful thing about computers is it goes on and on. But by the way, who are your mentors? Who is you
I
idolized
had none.
in
I
radio?
did it all on my own.
Okay. You did it your way, to quote Frank Sinatra?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Paul Anka wrote that song about me, not about Frank.
He should have given you half the residuals like he did Johnny Carson when he wrote the Tonight Show theme.
Yeah. Well, Johnny probably insisted on that. I don't think, the bombastic Bushkin, I think, was Johnny's, the lawyer he always talked about, Probably got him that deal. No, I don't know that I really. I don't know. There were a couple of guys that worked at KGW who were kind of friendly, Mm-hmm. But I don't think. Excuse me. I don't think that they ever really mentored me. In that sense, it was just kind of a weird set of circumstances. I was there, I was around town. Kissin came to town. They needed a guy, and there was a fellow who claimed he put in the word for me. I'm not sure whether he did or not, but I got the weekend thing. They fired 2 guys after 3 weeks, and I got one of the shows, and that's the name of that tune.
There you go. Well, good for you.
Yeah, Tom? Well, yeah. I mean, it was kind of, it was very shocking, especially to me. Boy, this Don Burton is a moron. What's he giving me the evening show for?
Is there anything you'd like to add to conclude the interview?
Well, on behalf of all of us here at Murr Manor, we're certainly thrilled and delighted with whatever it is. Who are you, anyway? I never did catch your name.
Well, I'm Josh Jacobs, but to quote The Who's B-side to Won't Get Fooled Again, you couldn't possibly know me because I don't even know myself.
Yeah, that's the kind of music that killed that group, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, breaking up the guitar on stage wasn't enough to save them after that song,
Plus, they kept having to glue the guitars back together because they didn't have
Yeah, right. They were running out of guitars. That would have been funny, wouldn't it, if, like, the roadie forgot the backup guitar? Yeah, Pete's up there jumping around playing air guitar, singing, Won't Get Fooled Again. You just did, Pete.
Oh, man.
Well, it sounds like you're having an awfully good time.
Yeah.
So am I. This is always fun.
Yeah, it definitely is fun.
I love having a lot of attention, and you've been very lavish in that.
Thanks, Tom, and I'll let you know when we've got it up online.
Yeah, well, you might want to, just kind of listen to it a little closely. If there's anything, just awful that I've done to my career or life by what I've said, just snip it out of there,
Yeah, there we go.
Listen, I appreciate it, and let me know, and I'll look forward to, I'll try to get my computer. I got to get some new tubes for that thing, get it back on.
Sounds
there
good.
are no tubes in computers.
No, but there were back in the day, but who knows? Maybe they'll go back to tubes.
Well, yeah, the first computers were like the size of an apartment, building.
Exactly.
The UNIVAC, I think, wasn't that one of the real early ones?
That was,
did
yeah.
Did IBM make UNIVAC? I think they did, didn't they?
I think they did, yeah. I remember now who did that.
Yeah, you see, I'll have a really useless crap for 100, Alex, and who made UNIVAC? I don't know. Who's the host on that? Did they ever determine, is that Mayim Bialik the host, or is
Yeah,
the
well,
other guy?
it's pretty much back and forth. They're rotating them, so several weeks it's Mayim, several weeks.
Is that going to be it, or are they going to choose one after a period of time, or do we know?
Yeah, we don't know. Probably they're just going to rotate because, I mean, after the debacle of Mike Richards choosing himself as executive producer, that
didn't work, did it?
It was a complete circus. It's like, the thing is that, back in the early 80s, Jack Barry, when he was hosting The Joker's Wild, had a plan to turn the show over to a young MC named Jim Peck. So what he did was he had Jim fill in for him every now and then. As the years went on, Jim filled in more and more and more, and he had that idea so that way people would get used to him, people would know him. So once Jack retired, people wouldn't say, "Who the heck is this guy hosting the show right now?"
Yeah, I kind of remember that vaguely, I guess.
It was a genius plan, but then Jack died before he had a chance to do that. And
I didn't know that.
So Dan Enright, his partner, thought, well, not enough people know who Jim Peck is. Bill Cullen worked for us on Hot Potato recently, so let's give the show to Bill Cullen. Which, Bill Cullen, he's a great host, but the problem was that he was really slow and slowed the game down. And So Jim Peck said he wasn't mad. He said, in fact, if you look up the word "nice guy" in the dictionary, Bill Cullen's name is right next to it. But
absolutely. Yeah, everybody seemed to like him a lot, yeah.
And so one time Jim Peck did fill in, and suddenly the director yelled cut, and they had run out of questions because Bill did the show so slowly, they didn't write as many questions. And so Jim Peck was more in the Jack Barry realm, where he was really rapid-paced and very, fast with the questions. Yeah. And so he says we had a break for like 2 or 3 hours while we wrote new questions, and standards and practices had to come on in and make sure everything was above board. And so I guess they got a good paycheck that night, everybody, both the host and the crew, but it slowed things down a little bit. But, just... But
did they ever continue that show? I never paid much attention to the game shows,
Yeah, they did continue it for 2 years with Bill Cullen as host, and then Jim Peck filling in whenever Bill wasn't there. But then it got canceled because Will and Jeopardy just trounced everybody. It basically took away Tic Tac Doe and Joker's Crown, along with Family Feud with Richard Dawson. And then there was another secession plan, which was interesting, was when Bob Barker decided to retire. And so the names that were floating out there were George Hamilton, Mark Steines from Entertainment Tonight, and a young host named Todd Newton. And then when Barker retired, suddenly Rosie O'Donnell's name was in the mix, and people were just mortified. They said, "Rosie O'Donnell, are you kidding me?" And one game show historian said, "You think it was drama behind the scenes with Barker? That's nothing compared to what it would be with Rosie O'Donnell." But then Rosie O'Donnell had all these demands. She says, "I want to move the show to New York." They said, "We're not moving production to New York where you live." So she said, "Okay, here's what I'll do. I'll come down once a month, and for over a 5-day period, we'll tape 5 shows a day." Well, The Price is Right. You can't tape 5 shows a day. There's a maximum of 2 you can do, because the crew gets there about 8:30 in the morning. The first show starts at 1. They break, bring in another audience, and then another show starts about 4:30 or 5 o'clock, and they're out there by 6:30 or 7. So there's no way you could tape 5 shows a day.
No, God, no.
And then what it really boiled down to is she just wanted way too much money, and they decided on Drew Carey. I mean, he's okay. I mean, he's not great, but he's not terrible either.
I always liked Drew Carey. I remember I saw him on the first Tonight Show that he was on.
Oh, yeah.
And he was just funnier than hell. And there was always a sign, if Johnny invited you over to the desk on your first appearance, that meant that Johnny liked you.
Exactly.
Which in those days, having Johnny like you wasn't all bad.
No. He'd always have the kind of like the same reply. That was funny stuff. But that was your your cue that he loved you.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Johnny Carson.
One of my favorite sketches of him was him as a politician hooked up to a lie detector.
Oh, yeah, I remember those. Yeah.
First of all, I'm delighted to be here.
The other car I liked actually was Art Fern. He was horrid. Such a terrible human being, but he played him so well, And there was the matinee lady, too, remember?
Oh, yeah.
heartburn, and that poor girl went to Mexico and drowned herself or some shit, didn't she?
Yeah, Carol Wayne.
Yeah,
and then eventually the new lady that was took over Carol Wayne's place was Teresa Ganzel, who had been Jackie Gleason's wife in The Toy. So she did that for Carson's last 5 years on the air. And I actually got to meet Teresa Ganzel at a game show convention. A really, really sweet lady. Let me take a picture with her. And although I did kind of like, the first time I met her, I said, "That's U.S., not U.S." Because her character in the toy called U.S. Bates, Jackie Gleason's character, she said, "Well, you just tell him no, U.S." "That's U.S., not U.S." Did she like your reference?
Well, she never could tell.
Yeah, she had kind of a poker face, so she didn't get mad at me, but she didn't laugh either. So
she didn't want to hang out with you at lunch, did she?
No.
No. Well, what are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, listen, I should probably shuffle off here. I have no reason why. I just kind of getting dark, and I want to try to get whatever it was I was not going to do today.
Yeah, get your Mounds bar. I don't want to deprive yourself of that.
Talk about that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I hope this will work out. You can clean it up however you want. And
well, Tom, thank you for being with us.
Listen, on behalf, yes, indeed. I was going to say on behalf of all of us, but I'm the only one here. So on behalf of me, I appreciate it. It was nice. It was fun. I'm glad I did it. I don't know that it's going to change or alter my life, but couldn't hurt.
You never know. Thank you for being with us, Tom. And
you bet.
This is the Talking Archive. My name is Josh Jacobs, and we'll be back with you soon.